This episode is brought to you by Catalyst. Catalyst combines beautiful design with modern technology to provide the most powerful customer success platform, helping companies reduce churn and improve customer experience at scale. They also create and post relevant and hilarious startup memes every day. So check them out on LinkedIn or at catalyst.io. Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2 of Unapologetic, a podcast dedicated to giving women of color a voice and an opportunity to share their journey with the world. My name is Kalina Bryant. I'm the founder of Unapologetic, and I'll be your host for today. As you all know, here at Unapologetic, the gift that I love to give to all of our guest speakers is a platform for them to bring their whole selves, to be authentic about their successes, struggles, accomplishments, failures, you name it. The platform is yours. And with that said, I'm so excited to introduce to you our next guest speaker, Miss Joanna Miller, a executive coach and facilitator at UC Berkeley and leader of organizational effectiveness and coaching at Asana. Joanna will be sharing with us her journey to becoming a certified coach, a podcast host herself, and also just an exceptional leader in Silicon Valley. I am so happy to have you here, Joanna. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kalina. I'm so excited to talk with you and to share sort of the things that I've learned along the way.
Yay, let's get into it. Well, I've had the opportunity to know you for about a year now, and the presence that you bring into a room, Joanna, you handle everything with grace. And sometimes things are difficult, but somehow you allow the room to feel calm and like it's going to be okay. And I want to talk to you a little bit as to how did you kick off a journey to becoming someone like you are right now, and also just the success that you have scoped out for yourself. I want to get into it as to how did you kick off a career like this?
Well, I have always been someone who likes to go to the march of their own drumbeat. And when I went to college, just getting to college to me was an accomplishment. It was something that I was excited about. And so when I got there and I was looking around at everyone who seemed to have these clear career goals, I knew for sure that that wasn't me. So I was the person who was always going to career fairs and going to the alternative careers table. So not going into academia, not finance, not consulting, not those types of roles. And what I looked for, because I wasn't certain what I was going to do, is a company that invested in their employees and invested in teaching them. So that's how I ended up working at my first job, which was at the Abercrombie & Fitch corporate headquarters as a fashion merchant working on women's knits. And the thing about it, that's very far away from where I am right now in terms of my career, but the thing that really attracted me to it was that they had a training program. Join a group of people who are just like you, new grads, learn everything there is about the job, have mentorship and coaching on the job, and use those opportunities to develop your skills and succeed. And even though I didn't have the words for it at the time, that experience was very formative, and it made me want to create that same level of experience, mentorship, coaching in sort of a classroom for ongoing development for other people, which is how I ultimately ended up in tech, creating those communities within companies like Asana.
Wow, what a way to just carve your own path, right? Like most people, when you think about tech, right, you automatically assume I have to be a coder, right? Or I have to be this engineer. I have to be someone that is building the product. And I love it that your journey showcases that that is absolutely not true. You can still find success as long as you understand what you're passionate about, where your skill sets lie. You can scope out a career just for yourself. So along that journey, this season is all about awareness to empowerment, especially for women of color that are breaking barriers, becoming their own CEOs, getting into leadership roles and carving out their own space and providing themselves their own seat at the table. My question for you is, as you went along your journey around awareness, how did you outline your skill sets and really tackle that to search for your new career and scoping that?
Well, the first thing I think that I did, and I don't even think I would have thought of this as a step at the time, was recognize that I wasn't happy where I was. So I was in a different career. I was a fashion merchant, as I mentioned, and I started to realize that I was dreading going to work in the morning. I was, hitting that snooze button 5 times before I would actually get out of bed. And when I realized that I wasn't happy, I started to think, okay, what are the reasons why I'm not? And what are the things that are lighting me up? And I started to notice, oh, when I'm teaching other people things, I enjoy that. When I'm talking to people about their career or areas where they're dissatisfied, or maybe how to navigate a difficult situation with their manager, that's where I'm getting lit up. And so I started to look for roles and opportunities to do more of that within my existing job. So when our team needed more training on how to negotiate with factories, I was the person who said, okay, let me find a course or something that will talk about negotiation or executive presence. So fast forward a little bit, I started to learn more about learning and development. And I actually did a stretch assignment where I partnered with the HR team at my job, and I donated my time and my skills around merchandising to help them create some training. And that's when I first learned about how do you design a curriculum? How do you think about your audience? What are the different modalities that you can use for facilitating and coaching other people? And through that experience, that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to leave this fashion stuff on the side for my free time, and I'm going to go full force into that. And what are the core skills? And something that just came to mind is what was really important to me was people in my leaders and other people that I work with saying, hey, you really have a skill for that, or you really have a passion, or you're really good at that. Things that I felt were just sort of natural things I was doing, like facilitating a strategic meeting. And the first thing I think, the second thing I would recommend to people beyond just like tuning into what's lighting them up and what's draining their energy is also listening to the things that people are complimenting you for. A lot of times, some of us are self-conscious, or we can't take the feedback that we're being given. And one of my mentors once told me, if I can't believe it myself, at least believe that what people are telling me, what people are celebrating about me. And after that, I look for opportunities on the job to do more of those things.
That is such, just spot on. And I hear you say, like dreading to wake up. That's like a signal, right? And being aware of that signal. A lot of the times we get our first jobs, we want to put our heads down. Next thing you know, 1 year passes by, then 5 years passes by, then 10 years passes by. And before you know it, you've had this career that is not fulfilling. So what I hear you saying is listen to the signals. Your body will tell
Yes.
you, your mind will tell you, and then you can really start to execute from there, is what I hear, right?
Yes. Being aware of your own reaction, and tuning in and checking it. It might be a monthly reflection practice. It might be a annual goal setting or vision board, whatever it is for you, but carve out some time on a regular basis for yourself to reflect on what your goals are, how you're feeling, and define something that you could do to go towards those things that are lighting you up.
You talked a little bit about your certification standpoints and achieving certification. Is it in leadership or in coaching? Talk to me a little bit about one, finding the certification and then actually going after it. How did that come about?
Yes. So I have a coaching certification in conscious leadership coaching. This came about because I realized after my first year in tech, leading learning and development, I was spending a lot of my time coaching people, managers, regular employees, just who were struggling with their career. And one of the things that I decided when I was doing my annual reflection on work and life was I actually really enjoy coaching, and I'd love to get more skill and training around that. How could I do that? So I approached my manager at the time and I asked if the company would sponsor me to go to a coaching program. And we decided that the one I should go to was conscious leadership, because that was also a methodology and a company that we were working with internally. And so I ended up signing up for a year-long cohort program with 30 other people who were also interested in going deep in this particular methodology. And I thought I was going to like learn some skills, some frameworks, and it totally changed my life in terms of network, the skills I use day to day, and also how I see myself as an entrepreneur in my career, not just an employee.
Okay, you hit it right there. You're like, that was the entrepreneur part. I was going somewhere with that. So you went ahead, you have basically carved out your career, in tech, right? You have figured out the skill sets that work well for this business, or for the technology industry. But then also you took another step, right? I think that this is extremely important when people are trying to figure out where their skill sets lie. When opportunity presents itself like this, taking a specific training, you should go after it, even if it's time consuming, right? Sometimes people say, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z, but this potentially can set you up to your next big thing. And so with that, here it is, a few years ago, you're taking this certification. I know personally, you also have a lot of different personal side things going on that is making a big splash in the industry and in the world, an impact. Talk to us a little bit as to how you carved out your own business inside coaching.
So, one of the things that I think is talked about a lot, but not talked about in specifics, is networking. And business is all about relationships, whether you're working at a company and you need to build relationships with your leadership team, with your coworkers that you'll be collaborating with. If you're an entrepreneur, you're getting leads for clients. You might be looking for an operations person or future hires that you might make for your business. So I'm always someone who loves to connect with other people. And that is how I actually got my first few jobs in terms of coaching. So a couple examples. One is I started telling people, hey, I'm in a coaching certification. If you are interested in doing a coaching session with me, learning more about what professional coaching looks like, hit me up. I'd love to do a 30-minute session with you. It'll be practice for me, and it also could create some value for you. I also ask people, if you know someone who benefit from this, maybe it's your friend who always likes to talk to you about, all the problems in their life, but they're not really making any progress. Send them over to me and maybe we can work together. Another thing that I told people was that I was really curious about group coaching because I felt like that would be a good middle ground between a formal training environment and facilitating as well as coaching. And that's what led me to my first real paid gig. And that was working with Slack, actually, who was doing a cohort for employees of color who were in tech. And they wanted to have a coach of color be part of the facilitation team for this 6 months program. And I was really nervous. I'll be really honest to take that on. I had never done anything like that before. Also, when you're charging for something, you want to give people high quality. So because it was the first time I was doing it, I was doubting myself, am I going to be able to give the quality that this big company expects? And one of the most formative things that happened during that first gig was that I told my participants, I was vulnerable with them. I said, I want you to know this is the first time I'm ever doing something like this. And regardless of, how it goes, your feedback, your honest feedback will be invaluable to me beyond any payment. And so being vulnerable, asking for their feedback, and just treating it as a learning opportunity did wonders for my confidence and my skill. And two of those people who were in this cohort actually hired me to be their one-on-one coach afterwards. So always representing to people that you are open to new experiences. Even if one of the biggest things I learned from my coaching certification too is that life is just presenting opportunities for us to learn. Sometimes the learning is awesome. It's celebratory. We feel good. Sometimes we get knocked around a little bit, but we're still learning. And carrying that mentality into whatever you're pursuing can be very helpful.
I like that 100%. And I commend you on being vulnerable. That's one thing that, especially people of color, especially women, we're not very vulnerable. How did you get to that place where you can actually get to a point where you're honest about that? What gave you the courage to actually tell them that, hey, this is my first gig? What are those steps? What does that look like?
I feel like a lot of our nervousness, and pardon me, I think a lot of our hesitation and our fear in life comes from not wanting to be seen as less than, and also trying to protect our ego. But sometimes when we're protecting our ego, we aren't actually opening ourselves up to learn and hear the things that we really need in order to grow. So I had to decide in that moment, it's more important for me to grow than it is for me to be right, than it is for me to look good, because this growth will actually lead towards that quality that I'm trying to provide in the future. And even if they tell me, oh, this wasn't that great, that's good. Number one, I know I gotten feedback from them that what I'm doing, I need to change it. And I can change it faster and experiment with something different that maybe may meet my client or meet the group really in the ways that they need to be met.
I like that. And so also I commend you also by not just doing one-on-one coaching, but you open it up to where you love group coaching, and you also highlighted the importance of networking. So you're not only networking with all of these amazing people, but you're allowing people to meet each other, feel vulnerable, connect. And I think that building a community is extremely crucial on success. And
Can I add one thing about that?
yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes, I hear a lot of people talking about building their personal brand these days, which is very important. But sometimes when we're so focused on our own hustle, on our own brand, we're forgetting about all the people around us who also have goals, hopes, and dreams, and maybe even resources that can help us. So another thing that I would recommend to people is think about the ways in which you're curious, and think about if you're just being curious about yourself to your own end, or to further your own goals, or if you're also being curious about other people, what they're struggling with, what they're offering, how you can help them. Because building those reciprocal relationships is also going to help you grow your business and meet the goals that you have for yourself.
I agree with you. And it's something that we actually overlook a lot of the times. It's not written in stone that you're supposed to look for those opportunities and connect. I think that everything that you're learning, regardless of how many tests that you receive, they don't actually test you on how to be, a higher EQ, not so much your IQ, but a lot of times we don't focus on the high EQ. And I think that being in business, that's one of the main, things that is going to make you successful long term.
Yes.
And so within that, I do have to ask you more of a challenging question. So as you have conquered all of these different things within your life, and also with the different executive coaching, obviously getting to that point, you've probably seen some gaps, right? Some gaps that you say, hey, this is not just particularly, it's not sitting with you well. Regardless of if it's tech or any industry, what are some of the gaps that you have seen that now you start to see a positive change with the new skill set that you now have with executive coaching?
I think a lot of people have a unrealistic expectation of the time it will take to reach their goals, or to learn the things that they want to learn, or simply even change their habits. Oftentimes when we want to, let's say we want to be less judgmental, that's something that can serve us, on our self journey. It's also something that can serve us when we're working with other people. Changing your thought patterns is not going to happen overnight or after one session with a coach. And you actually have to commit to practicing the actions and practicing them in different settings. It may take you, maybe a few weeks, a few months to be more curious and less judgmental about a coworker. But it could take you years to have that same reaction to a family member or someone that you have a much longer relationship with. The same thing too, in terms of your success or getting a promotion that you want at a job. Just because you don't get the promotion at the job you're at now doesn't mean that you haven't learned something or inherited a skill or an experience that's going to further your journey, maybe in a different environment. So that I think being more realistic about how long it takes to change and implement positive habits, and also gain success in our life, and being more gentle with ourselves on that journey is really important.
I like that. And it sounds a lot like self-reflection, right? You have to be aware of where you are in the present, and also be ready to put the work in, but also be ready to be patient is what I hear.
Yes.
Right. And so you have multiple lenses going on, Joanna. I love it. I think that you are doing so many wonderful things for the world and also for women, and just really making our business a better environment for us all. So I know that you personally do your executive coaching. You're also doing coaching at UC Berkeley, and then you're also doing your day job. And then also you have a podcast. So before we get into the podcast, I do want to understand, how do you manage it all?
Well, I used to joke that I don't sleep. I do everything, and the one thing I don't do is sleep. And that actually was detrimental because I reached a point of burnout at the beginning of 2021. I took a 10-day vacation over the holidays. I didn't leave my house at all. All I did was watch TV and chill. And when it was time to go back to work, I cried the night before work because I was still so exhausted and tired. And that's when I
Hmm.
realized that I needed to have one, be clear about what I was actually trying to create in the world. So,
Hmm.
I got work, I have coaching, in different environments, I facilitate trainings, I also have a podcast. I also want to have a life and see my friends and spend time with my family. So, I needed to get clear about what were the things that were actually furthering my values in the world, in reflecting, how I wanted to show up, and also get better at saying no and being clear about what my no meant. Because sometimes I think when I have this idea that when I say no, that means that if I say no to an opportunity, I will never have another chance to have that opportunity again. So that was what was causing me to overcommit to things. And I had to change my relationship with that through the help of my own coach and also, some friends giving me some advice in saying, just because I'm saying no right now doesn't mean I will never have an opportunity to have a relationship with this person or this organization or have this opportunity again.
Hmm.
And then after that, the other thing that I committed to and decided to claim for myself really was the right to rest. And and that
Hmm.
rest was actually a vital part of me being successful and me having giving the presence that I want in the world. One of my coaching mentors named Jim Dethmer, he says that presence is actually having all of your creative energy available to you in this very moment. And I feel like
Hmm.
resting deeply and also doing things that delight me, like getting a massage, having a nice dinner with friends, traveling, those are actually things that are contributing to my presence when I'm with clients, and when I'm leading things within my current role day to day, and even strategizing or developing curriculum. And I found that when I had more energy, I was able to show up even better, even more deeply like myself.
I like that. So what I hear is really just being real with yourself with boundaries.
Being real with yourself with boundaries, um, knowing that the relationships, or I should say, what's for you will always be for you, and being able to clearly
Hmm.
communicate to people. I'm not able to help you out right now in the way that maybe you're asking me to, but come back to me, in a few months. Or here's somebody in my
Hmm.
network who can offer the same thing that I'm offering. And I
Hmm.
commit to telling you in the future when I'm available again, because I would really like to work with you. And then also
Hmm.
not telling yourself that are going to earn your rest in the future, really that you deserve it right
Hmm.
now. And that's going to help you be even better at whatever it is that you're investing your time in to bring forth in the world.
I like that. And it just seems like with time, you've just gotten better at understanding how to protect your peace, right? I think that that is crucial if you're going to have so many multiple hats. So I commend you on that. Now, the fun part. So, I know that you have a podcast. I remember sort of stalking you when I first started working with you. I was like, who is this woman? I want to know more about her. So, I think your podcast is very intriguing. And I think it's something that needs to be shared and talked about, especially for women. There can, believe it or not, there was a time where we didn't really talk about like children and like how that would affect our lives and like having the ability to have children or not have children, et cetera. And I think that you do a really good job of really showcasing and hosting. So would love to talk to you a little bit about your podcast. Tell us about it, the name, the origin of it, how it makes you feel, what do you hope to gain from it, and what do you keep, like, how do you keep going with it?
Yes. So my podcast is called Our Bodies, Our Voices. And it is a podcast that's focused on fertility and family building stories. So people who want to build families, learn more about things like egg freezing, in vitro fertilization, even pregnancy loss, and ways in which you can create a family in our modern world. I do it with a co-host, and this is another thing about just trusting the divine timing in the universe and also putting your intentions out there. A few years ago, actually, about 10 years ago, I became a doula, a birth doula. So a person who assists people during their birth, a non-medical support person. And I volunteered at the SF General Hospital. And my intention at the time was really to shift careers to become a nurse. And part of my journey was volunteering, doing this doula work. And I wanted to be a nurse midwife, actually. And I realized that, maybe working in a hospital setting wasn't for me, but there was still something calling to me about women's health. So I collected some stories. I interviewed people about their births. And I was like, I really want to start a podcast, but I'd rather do it with a partner. And I just sort of put that dream on the shelf. And a few years ago, 2 years ago, I was at a dinner. I was talking to the group at the table, and I mentioned this interest of mine. And there was another woman there who said, you know what? I actually tried to create a startup that was focused on helping people navigate their, birth and fertility options. And I also wanted to start a podcast, but was looking for a host. So we got together and we started to bring this dream that we had both had for a long time to life. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that, like you said in the question, a lot of topics like this are thought to be taboo, or people just feel like there isn't a venue to talk about them, so they don't share that information. And then someone goes through a hard time in their life. Maybe they have a miscarriage, maybe they're getting further in their career and they haven't met their partner yet and they still want to have children, but they're very confused about how to do that. They need a place where they can go to get these resources. And one of the things I'm proud of is that we have a mix of content in our podcast. We talk to experts, medical professionals who work in the fertility and pregnancy space about how people get the care that they want, how they get support mentally, not just physically. We also talk to couples about how their journey has impacted them, changed their relationship, and what leads them to create their families and all the different ways that can come together. And we've heard from a lot of people that it just helps them feel less alone. And that's really one of the common threads through both my coaching business, the work that I do in my primary job, as well as the podcast.
Oh, I love that. And I mean, it's still giving back. Everything that I see you doing, Joanna, also just helps the next person. Does that feel fulfilling? Like, have you got to a point now where, since you're empowering others, do you feel as though everything that you do is fulfilling?
I wouldn't say everything that I do is fulfilling. There are still some things I need to,
Okay.
that are must do's, not love to do's. But I do, one of these quotes that's really impacted me in my life, I read this in a book called The Power of Full Engagement, actually right before I started my current job. And one of the questions in the book is, are you using life as a vehicle to live your values? And when I first read
Mm-hmm.
that quote, my answer to that question was no. And over
Mm-hmm.
the years, through investing time in coaching, building my business, starting the podcast, and doing other creative pursuits, the answer that I have to that question is much more closely to a yes, a full yes today. And that feels
Mm-hmm.
like I'm living in integrity. It also feels like I'm showing up, to deliver to the world what I'm being, told by the universe, by God, whatever you believe in, to offer. And I think I consider myself lucky to be at this point in my life, and be doing that.
I like that a lot. We'll have to definitely have a list of all the books that have helped you navigate to where you are right
Yes.
now. All right. As we go a little bit deeper and as you continue to empower individuals within your realm, I do want to ask you a question, especially for women of color, especially for Black women. You have really carved out a space to be successful within the enterprise technology industry, but also you've carved out a space to create your own business. Do you think that the coaching realm is the route to go, specifically for Black women looking to pursue a career, and be really successful at it? I've been reflecting on this a lot, and Black women are very nurturing, especially, let's just say, women in general are nurturing. They want to give back. They want to make sure people are satisfied, but they also want to find their purpose. Do you think that the coaching is the right industry to go into?
Well, I think it's helpful to just frame up for folks what coaching truly is, because it can take a lot of different
Hmm.
forms. So, people have most likely heard of a life coach. Maybe you've heard of an executive coach. I call what I do professional coaching. And what underpins all of these different options around coaching is that you are helping your client define or uncover their goals and then the actions and steps that they need to take in their life to achieve them and supporting them along the way. And I think that anyone in life, Black women especially, have experience and wisdom that they have earned that they can share to the benefit of other people. And
Hmm.
I think there's a way for people to do that with any talent, any expertise that they have. You could be a consultant. You could be a facilitator in which you're, leading workshops and trainings. You could also be a coach working with people one-on-one. One of the great things about coaching that people should know is that it's very flexible. You can do it from anywhere, especially if you see your clients virtually or on the phone. You can take on as many or as few clients as you'd like. And also that you have a lot of discretion over how you price your time, and especially if you gain in skill and expertise that you have. So it's definitely an option that I would encourage people to explore, especially, if you're a few years into your career, and you feel like you have some things to say. The other thing that is really important in coaching is to be a good listener and to have good boundaries. And when I say be a good listener, I'm not just talking about listening with your ears. I'm talking about listening
Hmm.
for what your client is saying out loud, what their body language is communicating, and what emotionally and maybe tonally they're communicating. Because your insights reflected to them around those things will help them uncover really what they need to do in order to shift their lives more quickly. And one last note about the boundary thing. So, we can only live our own life. And whether you're a coach, a therapist, or just a mentor to someone else, offer your advice as a gift with no expectation of a follow through, a thank you, or return. That person's just taking your wisdom, your support, and accepting it when the time is right for them. So those are the things I think, if those things are calling to you or feel like they resonate for you, definitely explore coaching as a profession or entrepreneurship opportunity.
I like that. All right, I have one more big question for you. So, as you've been able to carve your success out, and for every woman actually that I've been interviewing this season, what I realize is we don't have our own success manual. We don't have a manual that teaches us how to negotiate salaries. We don't have a manual that teaches us when something is not right. Do you stick with it or leave? There's no manual for us. We just are always in it, and we're always in the fire sometimes, and somehow we're making it through. But if we did have our own personal success manual on how to navigate and find success and fulfillment, what would be some of the advice that you'd like to share with women and just in general, people that are looking for a little guidance?
So, for anyone who's listening, I want you to just close your eyes for a moment. And when you hear me ask this question, think about the images that pop up in your mind.
Do
So,
you
the
want me to close
question,
my eyes?
yes, I'd love for you to close your eyes.
Okay.
Just take a deep breath in and let it out. And when I say choose the bigger life, what comes up for you?
That's powerful. I'm not going to say it on the recording just yet.
So just think to yourself, what are the images? What are the maybe words that come up for you? Maybe there's a decision that you've been grappling with. When I guarantee you, for most people, when I say or ask the question, choose the bigger life, or give you the prompt, choose the bigger life, there is something that comes up for you. Maybe something that you told yourself you're not ready for yet, or you don't know how you're going to get there. And start to list out
Hmm.
what would be some steps that you could take today to get closer to that bigger life, however it's defined for you. One of
Hmm.
the images that came up for me is building out my entrepreneurship. Part of my bigger life is transitioning from being an employee to being an employer, first for myself and potentially in the future for other people. Another thing that comes up for me is maybe moving to a different city and experiencing life in a different city. I've lived in the same place for 10 years. I love it here. I have community here, but maybe there's something out there that could help me reach my goals more quickly or expand my horizon. And so I think we all should be checking in from time to time on what that bigger life is for us and challenging ourselves to take those steps towards it.
Oh, that's so powerful, Joanna. So the bigger picture, right? Always close your eyes and really think about, especially, what if it scares you? Do you think that if it scares you, that means that you're supposed to do it, even like actually go for it?
Yes. And I'll give you one other thing that really helped me this year. I have a coach, as I mentioned, and I was working with my coach around, why am I resisting taking some of these steps I need to take, especially with my business? And one of the things that we talked about was it's not that I don't know what I need to do. It's not that I'm necessarily afraid of those steps that I need to take. I'm afraid of what will happen when I do. I'm afraid that I won't be able to handle maybe the abundance that is actually for me. And so one of the things that I started to say to myself in the morning is I fully wield my power and I welcome the responsibility it brings. I'm not afraid of the responsibility it brings. I welcome it because I know that when the time comes, when the opportunities come, I'm ready. Even if on the surface in my mind, I don't think I'm ready. In my heart, I know that I'm ready. So I need to step forward and take action and share my voice with that intention behind it and trust that I'm being put in the places that I'm being put for a reason. So it may not show up that way for, each person who's listening, but I guarantee you there's a fear or something out there for them that they can just step into. And I think, I can't remember who said this, but sometimes fear is just excitement or anticipation masked. So stepping in or stepping towards that excitement and putting the fear to the side is important for all of us, no matter what stage of our journey we're on.
I love that. That's just spot on. It's something that if you could hear this, I'm pretty sure that people just got an inspiration to continue on or to make that next big move. So thank you for that, Joanna. All right. Before we close out, Miss Joanna, how do people get in touch with you? I'm pretty sure you have a few people that want to be coached by you now. So give us the lowdown. How do people follow your podcast? How do people sign up for a consultation, your 30-minute consultation? If you are doing group coaching sessions, how do they find you? And also, if they just want to know about your quirkiness, I know you have a lovely cat, and I'm actually not a cat person, but I like your cat. Do they follow you on Instagram? Do they follow you on LinkedIn, your website? Tell us, give us the lowdown.
So you can find links to most of the things that I do by going to joannamiller.com. The podcast is linked there, as well as my LinkedIn. There's also a contact page where you can reach out to me via email and see if there's interest in, speaking, coaching, group coaching, a workshop. Again, my podcast is called Our Bodies, Our Voices. And you can find our website at ourbodiesourvoices.com if you want to go directly to the podcast to listen to some episodes. And then you can also find me and just see a little bit of more of my day-to-day life, maybe some funny observations, certainly pictures of my cat, Milo, on Instagram. And that is at Joanna the Joyful. At Joanna the Joyful on Instagram. And I'm also on LinkedIn too. Joanna R. Miller, I believe is my LinkedIn direct link. So LinkedIn.com/Joanna R. Miller. But yeah, you'll find all those places through one of those few venues. And I'm excited to engage and interact with you and meet some people through your wonderful community.
Yay. Okay, one last question though. Joanna the Joyful, tell me the origin of it. I love it.
So when I first started to work with a coach, I was, one of the things we were working on at the time was I was in a different job and I wasn't happy there. And one of the things the coach had me do is list out everything that brought me joy. And she was listening to me talk, and she was telling me when she really heard my voice light up. So I started calling whenever you hear that flicker of excitement, or you feel in maybe your core, like some bubbling and some excitement. I started calling that the joy department, and that I needed to go to the joy department whenever I was feeling down. And that translated into, how do I feel about myself? I feel joyful, or at least I want to feel joyful in my life. And so I started calling myself Joanna the Joyful, almost as like an affirmation or aspiration. And one of the things I love hearing from people, most meaningful compliments I've ever received, is that your joy comes through, and that's what I'm hoping to give in everything that I do and every person that I meet.
Oh, that makes my heart warm. I think that people need to at least have a Joanna, right? I think that the joy that you bring and I'm serious, like the ambience that you bring can calm a person down when things are going to hit the fan. And I think that it takes a very unique individual, and it takes a unique personality like yours to do that to the world. So I really commend you on that. And before we close out, it is what it is, Joanna. Like it's beautiful. If you want to hear more of wonderful people like Joanna, if you want to have a safe space, if you like what you hear, just remember Unapologetic keeps it real. We bring in resources. We bring in people that are showcasing how they got to where they are, and they're really giving you the success manual. So if you like what you hear, please follow us at unapologetic.com. Also, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, and also Google Podcasts. With that, thank you so much, Joanna, and stay tuned.
Thank you.